The bell rang, sharp and metallic, echoing through the graffitied halls of Southridge High. Lockers slammed shut. Backpacks were slung over shoulders. Voices rose like a wave of noise. But through it all, one girl moved quietly, like a ghost skimming the edge of the chaos. Her name was Maya Ellis, 16, junior year, honor roll, invisible. She wore a worn-out denim jacket 2 sizes too big, the sleeves frayed at the edges. Her shoes had duct tape around the sides, barely holding together. Her hair was pulled back into a messy ponytail, not because she didn't care, but because she didn't have time to. Maya didn't speak much at school. She wasn't shy, just tired. Between working late shifts at her uncle's diner and tutoring middle school kids for a few bucks, there wasn't a lot of room left for lunchroom chatter or hallway gossip. Her life was lived in the margins, just like the scribbled notes in her second-hand notebooks. That morning, she arrived to class 5 minutes early, as always. She sat at the back as usual, and she watched as her classmates trickled in with their noise and energy and TikTok stories. No one looked at her. No one ever did. Until today. Because today was the first day of advanced physics, a course known across campus as the academic version of a death sentence. The kind of class where half the students dropped out after the first unit, and at the center of it all was Mr. Dalton, a former engineer turned teacher with a temper sharper than his tie collection. When he entered the room, the noise vanished like steam on cold glass. He dropped a thick stack of syllabi on the front desk and turned to face the class, eyes cold and calculating. "This course will destroy you," he said flatly, "unless you're worth it." Then his gaze swept the room and stopped on Maya. "You," he said, pointing with a piece of chalk. "Name?" She hesitated. "Maya Ellis." He squinted. "You're not on the registration list." I tested in. Principal's approval." Dalton raised an eyebrow. "That right?" He walked over to her desk, slow and theatrical, like a lion circling prey. "You sure you're in the right room, Alice? This isn't remedial science." Murmurs spread through the room. A few students snickered. Maya's jaw tightened, but she didn't speak. Dalton dropped a heavy textbook onto her desk with a thud that echoed. "Prove it," he said. "Chapter 3, Problem 19. Solve it before the bell rings." He turned back to the front, smirking. Most students would have crumbled, panicked, fumbled through the pages. Maya didn't. She flipped open the book, eyes scanning the problem. Her pencil moved quickly, purposefully, not flashy, just focused. When the final bell rang, she stood up and walked to Dalton's desk, paper in hand. He took it with a sigh, expecting nonsense. But as his eyes moved down the page, the smirk faded. His hand twitched once. Then he looked up, slower than before. "You did this? Without help?" "Yes," she said. Dalton said nothing for a long time. Then, with a clipped tone, he muttered, "Sit down." But the room had already shifted. People stared now, whispered. Maya returned to her seat, not smiling, just breathing steady. Something had cracked, and the ripple was just beginning. The days that followed weren't normal anymore. Maya still sat at the back, still wore the same denim jacket, still came early and left late. But now, eyes followed her, some curious, some amused, some waiting for her to mess up, especially Mr. Dalton. He never said much directly after that first day, but every lesson he found a way to test her. A random cold call, an impossible follow-up question, a surprise pop quiz that always landed on her desk first. Maya never flinched. At home, her life didn't pause. The diner still needed cleaning. Her little brother still needed help with math. The bills still came, even if the money didn't. But in between the chaos, she carved out moments, small windows of time to study, to prepare, to stay ahead. One night, well past midnight, she sat on the floor of the kitchen, textbooks spread around her like fallen leaves. A flickering bulb buzzed overhead. Her mom peeked around the corner, tired from work, her apron still on. "You're not sleeping again?" "Test on Friday," Maya said without looking up. Her mom sighed. "They better see how bright you are." Maya didn't answer, because she knew how the world worked. Being smart wasn't always enough. Friday came fast. Dalton stood at the front of the room, holding a single sheet of paper. His smile was razor-thin. "Pop quiz," he said, "one problem. Solve it however you like, but if you can't solve it, you fail today's grade." Groans rippled through the class. He handed the paper to the first student. It moved down the rows like a slow fuse. When it landed on Maya's desk, her heart stuttered. It was complex, ridiculously so. A hybrid of mechanics and electromagnetism, twisted into a single brutal scenario. Even for a college-level student, it would be a stretch. She blinked once, twice, then lowered her head and got to work. Time passed in silence. Pens scratched. Frustration grew. Maya's pencil danced. Not quickly, not flawlessly, but with clarity. She broke the problem into pieces, tested assumptions, drew diagrams in the margins. When Dalton called time, she was still boxing her final answer. He walked by, collecting papers, eyes scanning hers. He stopped, stared, then snatched it up and continued walking. After class, while everyone else spilled into the hall, Maya gathered her things quietly. "Ellis," Dalton called from the front. She froze. "Wait here." The room emptied. She stood near the chalkboard, hands gripping her backpack straps. Dalton closed the door behind the last student, then turned, holding her quiz. "Do you know what this is?" he asked, lifting the page. "A solution," Maya replied. He stepped closer. "A correct one. To a problem I gave to two of my former grad school colleagues, and they both missed it." Maya swallowed hard. Dalton's eyes narrowed. "Who's helping you?" "No one. I don't tolerate cheaters. I'm not one." They stared at each other. Silence heavy. Electric. Finally, Dalton folded the paper and slipped it into his briefcase. "I'll be watching," he said. "If you're lying, I'll know." Then he turned and walked out. Maya stood alone, the classroom suddenly colder. She didn't cry, didn't yell, but something burned in her chest, not fear, fuel. By the next Monday, everything felt different. Word had spread. Maya's name, once barely known outside the attendance sheet, was now whispered in other classes, in the cafeteria, even in the faculty lounge. People didn't know exactly what she did, but they knew it had shaken Mr. Dalton. And Dalton? He doubled down. The next week, he introduced a new segment. Problem of the Day. Each one handwritten, each more brutal than the last, always announced with a glance at Maya. Students groaned. Some gave up halfway through. Maya didn't. Every day, she stayed after class, asking questions, not to show off, but to understand deeper, to get under the surface of every concept. She filled notebooks with alternate proofs, derivations, edge cases. She even corrected a misprint in the textbook, which Dalton initially denied, until he checked and found she was right. Still, he never praised her, never gave more than a grunt or a raised eyebrow, but he didn't challenge her less. One afternoon, Maya was surrounded in the library, her usual study nook now populated with a cluster of curious students. Not just her classmates either, seniors. Even a couple students from the robotics team. "Hey, Maya," one girl asked, leaning over her notes. How'd you isolate the vector components on that pendulum problem? Maya explained it softly, tracing the diagram with a pencil. Another student nodded. You should lead a study group or something. She shrugged. I don't have time. Well, if you ever do, we'll show up. The others murmured in agreement. That night, she found a sticky note on her locker. He's testing you because he's scared of you. No name, just the truth. Later that week, Principal Donahue called Maya into his office. She stepped in, unsure if she was in trouble or about to be congratulated. Miss Ellis, he said, standing up to shake her hand. Have a seat. She sat, clutching her backpack tightly. You've been recommended for the Regional STEM Invitational, he said. Maya blinked. I didn't apply. Number. But Mr. Dalton did, personally. Her heart skipped. He said your performance in class has been exceptional, and that you'd probably embarrass the competition. His words, not mine. Maya sat there stunned. Mr. Dalton, the same man who questioned her daily. He gave me this too, Donahue said, handing her a sealed envelope. Inside, the competition info, event schedule, and a note, handwritten, from Dalton. They won't expect someone like you, that's your advantage. Use it. No signature, just a challenge. The following Saturday, Maya found herself on a bus heading downtown to the Invitational. Dozens of other students filled the seats, some in crisp blazers, others scrolling on tablets, earbuds in, already reviewing formulas. Maya sat near the back, hoodie on, eyes closed, remembering every late-night study session, every quiz, every time someone assumed she didn't belong. This was her moment. The auditorium was packed with parents, judges, teachers from across the city. Maya walked up to the registration table, where a young woman in a bright blazer raised an eyebrow. Sorry, are you here to watch? Maya pulled out her confirmation. I'm competing. Oh, the woman said, clearly surprised. Of course. Sorry. Maya tucked her badge into her jacket. She didn't need their approval. She brought something better. Proof. The main hall of the STEM Invitational looked like something from a science fiction movie. Glass walls, LED panels, polished floors reflecting rows of tables, each with a digital timer and nameplate. Maya found her seat, table 17. No one around her looked familiar, and none of them looked like they expected her to be there. A boy in a navy blue polo shirt leaned over, reading her tag. You're from Southridge? He asked, incredulous. She nodded. Huh. Didn't think that school even offered physics at this level. She didn't respond, didn't need to. The announcer's voice echoed through the room. Welcome to the 14th Annual Regional STEM Invitational. Today's challenge will test logic, application, and real-world engineering concepts. You'll have 1 hour to design, solve, and explain your approach to a multi-stage problem. No calculators, no internet. Just you and your mind. The screen behind the announcer flickered, revealing a multi-layered problem set. Complex circuits, projectile physics, a real-world case involving magnetic rail systems. Students gasped, some scribbled immediately, others froze. Maya inhaled once, then began. She approached the page like a puzzle, not a wall. She didn't rush. She mapped out the flow, input, output, resistance models. Her pencil skated across the paper, steady and confident. She annotated everything, not for the judges but for herself. To stay clear. Halfway through, she noticed a pattern in the question, something off. She paused, cross-referenced units in her head. Then she saw it. A misdirection. The second part of the question contradicted itself, on purpose. A test within the test. Maya adjusted course. She redesigned the equation chain, incorporating a correction path. Time ticked down. At minute 52, she boxed her answer. At 55, she started reviewing. At 60, she stood and submitted it. Calm, focused, like someone who knew what they'd done. Judges collected the papers. Students filed out for break. The boy in the polo passed her, saying nothing. But she caught the glance. It wasn't doubt anymore. It was worry. Outside the hall, Maya sat under a wide oak tree near the parking lot. She didn't check her phone, didn't pace, just let the wind cool her face and slow her thoughts. That's when she heard it. "Ellis." She turned. Mr. Dalton. He was standing in the distance, arms crossed, the same unreadable look on his face. "You're not supposed to be here," she said, half joking. "I wanted to see it myself." They stood in silence for a beat. "I saw the problem set," he said finally. "How'd it feel?" "Deliberately cruel." Dalton smirked. "Then you're right on track." He walked over and handed her a folded paper. "What's this?" "Next week's topic, college-level thermodynamics. I figured you'd get bored waiting." She opened it, scrawled notes, diagrams, and 2 unsolved problems. "I'll be ready," she said. He turned to leave, then paused. "I underestimated you." Maya looked up. "I know." He gave the smallest of nods and walked away. Back inside, the results were posted on digital boards. Maya didn't rush, but as she approached, she saw the line. First place, Maya Ellis, Southridge High. The room buzzed, teachers whispered, a judge smiled, and the boy in the polo? He shook her hand, no sarcasm, just respect. Maya didn't grin, she just exhaled, steady, calm, but inside, a fire roared. She didn't just belong, she dominated. Monday morning at Southridge felt like any other. Fluorescent lights flickered above battered lockers. The air smelled faintly of overcooked cafeteria pizza. Students drifted through the hall, half awake, heads down. But when Maya stepped into the building, people noticed. They didn't stop her, didn't swarm her, but their eyes lingered. Nods came from seniors she'd never spoken to. A junior from band class flashed her a thumbs up. Even Coach Ruiz, who barely acknowledged anyone not holding a basketball, offered a "heard you crushed it." She didn't say much in return. She didn't have to. By third period, a new article appeared on the school's website. Local student wins Regional STEM Invitational, beating 47 schools across the state. A blurry photo of Maya at the competition filled the page. The headline was shared on the school's social media, screenshotted on phones, pinned on bulletin boards. And in Mr. Dalton's class? Silence. Not because people were ignoring her, but because she had changed the atmosphere. Dalton entered exactly on time, as usual. "Before we start," he said, placing his briefcase on the desk, "I want to acknowledge something." The room stiffened. Last weekend, Maya Ellis represented this school at a competition designed to filter out anyone who didn't belong. He paused. She didn't just belong, she won. Maya felt every pair of eyes turn toward her. Dalton didn't smile, but his voice softened slightly. "I don't care where you come from. If you can solve problems, real problems, you deserve the seat. Maya proved that, and I suggest you all remember it." He turned to the board and began the lecture. But something was different now. She wasn't just the girl in the back, she was the benchmark. That afternoon, Maya returned to the library. Same table, same stack of books. But this time she wasn't alone. A younger student approached, maybe a freshman, backpack half her size, eyes wide. Are you Maya?" She nodded. I saw what you did. I'm really bad at physics, but I want to get better. Could you help me sometime?" Maya smiled, just a little. "Yeah, sure." More students came over during the week. Some just watched, some asked questions. Some brought their own notebooks, nervously flipping to pages they didn't understand. Maya didn't start a club, but somehow she'd built a movement. On Friday, the principal's office called again. "Another competition?" Maya asked. "No," Principal Donahue replied. "A scholarship." He slid the packet across the desk. "STEM Scholars of Tomorrow, fully funded summer program, research mentorship, national exposure. Dalton nominated you." She flipped through the folder, hand steady. "This is real?" "Very." She stood to leave, but Donahue spoke again. "You've changed things here, Maya, you know that." She hesitated, then, "Good." That evening, as dusk spilled across the city and streetlights blinked on, Maya walked past the diner, past the cracked sidewalks and flickering neon signs, up to the hill where she used to study under the park lights. She opened her old notebook, flipped through the worn pages, filled with equations, scratched-out lines, pieces of problems once unsolved. And then she wrote something new. Not a solution, a question, bigger than any test, any quiz, any lab assignment. What comes next? Because now, for the first time in a long time, she got to ask that. Not because someone challenged her, but because she had claimed the space to wonder. The rules hadn't just bent around her. She rewrote them. And she wasn't done. Not even close.